President of the Democratic Women of Monterey County. I am here on a recorded interview with Nick Smith, who is a mayoral candidate for Pacific Grove. I'm here with my sister board member, Margie Kay, and we are going to be doing this interview with Nick. I will be keeping the time and doing the recording, and Margie will be asking the questions. Welcome, Margie, and welcome, Nick. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you,
very much.
Lisa.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
And on that, I'm going to turn this over. Margie, go to you.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here. We're going to begin with Nick Smith introducing himself for 1 minute. Then I'll follow with 4 questions. We will conclude with the candidate, Nick Smith, providing us with his closing remarks.
Okay.
Please make your introductory remarks. You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Margie. As Mayor Pro Tem and council member for the last 8 years, I focused on infrastructure, roads and sidewalks, protecting the environment and coastline, youth recreation, and fiscal stability. As mayor, I'm determined to prioritize downtown beautification, affordable housing, and complete streets. I believe in open and transparent dialogue and reasoned debate, and will listen to all views. I encourage respectful dialogue on the council. I have been a member of the Monterey One Water Board since 2018, working for a cutting-edge water supply. I'm a proud father of 3 daughters attending Robert Down Elementary, Pacific Grove Middle School, and Pacific Grove High School. I currently serve on the joint subcommittee for a greater partnership between the school district at PG Unified and the city. As a local attorney for 11 years, I have helped individuals, families, and businesses solve problems and achieve goals. I believe I have the appropriate temperament, knowledge, and experience to lead the community as mayor.
Thank you. Please tell us what the top 3 most pressing issues are in your city and how you plan to address them. And you have 5 minutes to respond.
Housing is always going to be in the top of our issues to face in the community. Housing, as we know, is very scarce in our community and very expensive. In addition, macroeconomic factors create an impediment to progress in this area. And I believe as mayor, I will continue to support accessory dwelling units or ADU policies to create more affordable and livable units within the city. We have an increase in these types of units, and we need to do everything possible to encourage these opportunities. These are opportunities for family members, renters, friends, relatives to live with someone on a property, increasing the density there, but also providing more housing supply. So I find those to be a way that Pacific Grove in the recent past has used state mandates to its advantage, and in order to create more housing opportunities. I also support, in the area of housing, I support workforce housing for those members of the community that live and work in the community. We've had one such project that has been brought to the council in my time, but I would look for more opportunities for those types of projects that provide more affordable housing to our workforce. As mayor, I pledge to seek opportunities to create more housing within our community to increase the housing supply. I believe that some of these units should be affordable, more affordable, and below market rate. How we do that is going to require a lot of stakeholders to come together, including property owners, to work with the city in order to get such a project. But I do believe it's possible, and I would be open-minded in seeking it. Another major issue that faces our city is water, the scarcity of water. I have served on the Monterey One Water Board and as chair of the Recycled Water Committee, and I've been on the board since 2018. The key to the water crisis facing our community is to increase the supply. I have been working with other regional leaders to increase the supply of water through Pure Water Monterey, a Monterey One Water project that recycles local water for potable use on the Monterey Peninsula. I have supported Pure Water Monterey expansion, which faced multiple efforts to derail the project over the last 5 years. I have been a staunch ally of Monterey One Water in this fight for community water. I believe that increasing the water supply will have positive spillover effects, such as the ability of residents to remodel their homes and create additional living space for relatives, family members, and renters. I believe that it will have spillover effects for business as well to increase and enhance our downtown and as well as create better workspaces for the community workforce. And one near and dear to my heart, very important issue that we always face, especially in a community that was created in 1889, is infrastructure. I have been a very strong supporter of infrastructure improvements through my first 2 terms on the council. We have repaved roads, built sidewalks and walkways, and repaired sewer lines. But there is more work to be done. There are more roads to repair, more sidewalks to build and connect, and there are more sewer lines to repair. As mayor, I believe we need to continue to work on ADA compliance within our pathways. We need to continue to work on enhanced storm drainage for bay protection. And these are my priorities for community infrastructure. Finally, and lastly, and possibly with the most impact toward the future, I'm determined to work on building complete streets that accommodate all uses of the streets, including pedestrians, bicyclists, and other users, not just vehicles. This is something that must be done incrementally because of the cost, but I will push for improvements such as the one we just voted on, the five-way stop, the roundabout at the five-way stop at Sunset, Cedar, and Congress. I believe this multimodal transportation is critical as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the next question is on housing. And the California Democratic Platform supports, and I quote, allowing local communities to create strong tenant and affordability protections without the conflict of state law. What are your thoughts on this? And you have up to 3 minutes to respond.
Would you mind repeating that question?
The next question is on housing. The California Democratic Platform supports, and I quote, allowing local communities to create strong tenant and affordability protections without the conflict of state law. What are your thoughts on this? And you have up to 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you. I think there are potentially areas to explore with relation to local housing laws that could help tenants. And as mayor, I would be willing to explore those and look at potentially other communities that have put in such regulations. And I would want to look at how have they done, how is the community responded to it? Has it been positive? And has it made an impact? I believe Monterey has done some tenant municipal ordinances of late in the last perhaps 3 years or since COVID. So I'd want to look at those as an easy example right next to us that we could test out. It appears that the state has given some broad authority to local councils to act, and so if there is something that we can do to ease the burden on tenants, I would certainly be willing to explore it and discuss policies of that nature with the community, with stakeholders, and hear kind of what the people would want in that area. So I'm certainly open-minded about it and willing to learn more about what it is we can do within California law that's consistent with California law that can assist our tenants, because I realize the difficulty faced by many working families. I am a working father myself and single parent, and I deal with the expense of housing and everything else now due to inflation. So I'm certainly sympathetic, empathetic to that, and willing to work on it.
Thank you. The next question is on climate change. What are the main threats from climate change in your city, and how will you address them? and you have up to 3 minutes to respond.
I think obviously for us in Pacific Grove, our sea level rise is our big climate change issue that arises in Pacific Grove. I do think that we in Pacific Grove, we are committed to the environment. In the government, we are especially committed to the environment. And I think the biggest thing we can do locally here is to do our part for the environment. I don't think we can solve climate change in Pacific Grove, but I think we can have a positive impact. So I don't want to carve too deep on, what it is that we can do, but there are things we can do. And I have been involved in um, dealing with sea level rise from a policy perspective. And I think that's probably the biggest thing facing us, and the storms. The recent storms have also could be argued to be part of climate change. And those have been really tough on the city. So I think one thing the city has done, we have committed to developing a plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to climate change. So we have done that. I fully support that effort. We have been good stewards of the environment. We have acted to reduce impacts and adapted to climate change. Um, and I've supported hiring an expertise to develop emission reduction targets for the city through 2030 to 2050. I think it's a first step, but it's an important step for the city. So we have been active in this area. And we are going to be voting on the consultant for that particular task in the coming days. As mayor, I would also pledge to seek opportunities to increase our electric vehicles in our city fleet wherever possible. Again, to further reduce our carbon footprint. And like I said, I think as a city, we have the impacts of climate change that we see in our storms and kind of flooding and high wave action. What we have to do to deal with it is we have to do our part. And so I feel if we have to stay connected to stakeholders in this area that can help us, can guide us, give us more things we can do as a local community, and listen to people. Again, going back to my opening statement, I really do want to listen to the views of people, experts, residents, people that can bring. We have a BNRC. That would be the Beautification Natural Resources Commission would be a perfect place to discuss this. And we've taken in environmental presentations there before. So I'm willing to work on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question pertains to women and racial rights, or the significance of diversity, inclusion, and equity. Is there a gender and/or racial gap in your commissions, committees, and boards in your city? And if so, how will you address them? You have 3 minutes to respond.
That's an interesting question. I actually couldn't say. I haven't done a survey of the race or gender of our board members. However, what I will say about the board members is that I feel that they have a very positive presence in the community. That they do a great job. We do have, I'm the liaison to the recreation board, so anecdotally, I will say that our board chair is a woman. I'm doing a head count in my mind here. I think there are 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 women on that particular board. I'm not saying so that's more women than men on that particular board. I don't think that I don't know that there's a problem with the gender gap. It's an interesting question. I don't sense one in the community because I've been working with a lot of female board chairs. And so I do not have sensed that. As far as racial diversity, I think that's probably going to be more of a community that is primarily white. Like Pacific Grove, you're going to have that, I believe. And so what we need to do is, I guess, to address that particular issue is, recruit communities of color, get out there and get the word out that we're trying to recruit for these positions, that we accept anybody who is interested and qualified, and I will look at all qualified applications. I think that's the only way to do it. I mean, we have to probably better get the word out than we maybe have done in the past, because things are definitely different than they were even 5 years ago. So I would support, as mayor, I would support more efforts of outreach to try to reach those communities of color, to get more diversity on our commissions, racial diversity. If we did have a gender gap, I would certainly be willing to look into that as well. It's something that, we can easily sort and look at and get the data points. But to go further on it, I probably have to have the data, but I'd definitely be willing to look into that, to address it, and to try to make our boards and commissions more inclusive and diverse. That's for sure. I'd definitely be willing to work on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now end with your closing statement. What would you like our listeners to take away about you and your candidacy? And you have 1 minute.
Thanks. After 8 years of council service, I have demonstrated leadership and a strong commitment to the community and a willingness to serve. As mayor pro tem, I demonstrated an ability to lead the council, and I believe I have the knowledge, experience, and temperament to lead the community as mayor. I have learned so much from our residents, my colleagues, our regional partners, and all stakeholders involved in the governance of the city, and I want to use that knowledge to make our community the best it can be. I know the interests of my community, and I take those to heart every day home with me. I have 3 young daughters in the PG schools, which has brought me into contact with many great community members, teachers, educators, administrators, and others. I have shown my commitment to caring about the relationship between the schools and the city by joining the joint subcommittee. Pacific Grove is a beautiful, engaging place, and I want to do my best to keep it a wonderful place to live, work, and visit. And I want to find opportunities to enhance the quality of life of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margie and Nick, for being with us. I hope everyone that's given you a little more insight into who Nick is and why he wants to run. And with that, I wish you all a lovely rest of the day, and may everything flow with ease and grace. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you, Margie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Berkeley, President of the Democratic Women of Monterey County, and this is a recorded interview with Dionne Ybarra, who is the mayoral candidate for Pacific Grove. I'm here with my sister DWMC board member, Margie Kay, and I will be responsible for timekeeping and recording, and Margie will be conducting the interview. Welcome, Margie and Dionne.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here. We're going to begin with Dionne Ybarra introducing herself for 1 minute. Then I'll follow with 4 questions. We will conclude with Dionne providing us with closing remarks. Please make your introductory remarks, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you for the time that you're giving me here. Again, my name is Dionne Ybarra, and I'm excited to run for mayor again in the city of Pacific Grove. I ran for the first time in 2018, and I did not win. I always say, though, that it was never a loss for me, because what I've gained in between time has been endless for me. And I know this in between time has set me up to be a successful candidate this time around. I'm a lifetime member of Monterey County. I grew up in the Salinas Valley and have lived in Pacific Grove now for 29 years. But in the meantime, as an executive founding director, I've opened 2 businesses associated with that nonprofit, as well as achieved a lifelong dream for me in getting a master's degree in social work. And so those 2 new additions to my life's work are going to be really helpful in moving into.
Thank you. Please tell us what the top 3 most pressing issues are in your city and how you plan to address them. and you have up to 5 minutes to respond.
Okay. The top three concerns that I'm hearing from the community, from community members, and following, just our city's politics. One of them, I believe, is DEI and how DEI was introduced into Pacific Grove and how it's been moving along, and there have been a lot of roadblocks for the movement of bringing it forward, and they're necessary, needed changes that we need to have to again allow diversity, equity, and inclusion in our community, as well as to bring all the voices to the table at every level of our city government, as well as bringing in a space for our community members, our diverse community, and making us feel like we're connected, and that connectedness is going to allow us to move forward in a way that benefits everybody and that no one gets left behind. The second major concern I think we have is infrastructure, and Pacific Grove updating infrastructure around, I know there's a new roundabout that's been presented to the city of Pacific Grove, and if that is something that we want, and that's change. And people are often concerned about change and don't want change, but changes, again, is what's going to bring us up to, especially with infrastructure, is what's going to bring us into where we need to be for our climate action, which our climate action plan, I believe, is the third top priority as we move forward in Pacific Grove. Climate action is what is our responsibility for county, for state, for federal guidelines, and that is important for us. And our infrastructure changes can meet in those two places. Infrastructure saves money. It allows, again, it's part of that like DEI as well work, where new infrastructure can allow access for everybody to have mobility around our town, to have a place where we can have different parts of our life. I always say, I appreciate that I've been able to raise my kids in Pacific Grove. I came to Pacific Grove in my early 20s, and I want to stay there for the rest of my life. And that is kind of the lifespan of a Pagrovian, is that we can stay there if we can. The plan is for us, and what we hope is to stay there. We'd like our kids to be able to go to college and come back. I mean, I'm in that stage with my kids, where one has come back. I'm trying to get the other one back. They've spread their wings and met the dreams that Pacific Grove helped instill in them. But we want to make Pacific Grove a place where I can live out my life there, and our kids can come back. New community members can come in at different times of their life, but we need infrastructure built into our city that can support growth. And we need infrastructure that's set in place that also is aligned with climate change, because when we have additional people, it does can put a wear on our resources. So we need to make sure that all of these things are set in place so we can, again, all have a life that's comfortable in Pacific Grove, and where we can all feel like our needs are being met.
Thank you. The next question is on housing. The California Democratic Platform supports, and I quote, allowing local communities to create strong tenant and affordability protections without the conflict of state law. What are your thoughts on this? And you have up to 3 minutes to respond.
I have been a lifetime renter, and so this is a really important issue for me. And again, because my children are trying to come back, my adult children, I see how it feels impossible for them. And how is that going to work out? And I also know that renters are a large percentage of our community, And so we have to speak to the rights in our city of our renters, and that they have equal access and opportunity in our city as anybody else, regardless if they own a home or not. So I am in support of all measures that we can take at every level of government that can help support our small towns in looking at what we need in our own town and what will work for us, and moving forward with that, because housing insecurity is stressful. Housing insecurity weighs on everybody in the family. And I've had that experience where I'm afraid, is the knock at the door, or the letter in the mail, or the email that's going to come through going to be the next one from the owner of the house who says they're selling, or that they need their family member to move in. For some reason or the other, this happened to me time after time after time, and trying to stay in the city of Pacific Grove, because as a single mother, I knew it was important for my kids to have the stability of staying in the same school district. So we stayed there, but it wasn't easy. And that stress, they knew that it was a stressor for me. They knew if we got a notice that we had to move for some reason, that this was going to affect all of us. And I don't want to see kids having to have that problem. I don't want to see mothers, fathers, families having to figure out, I've got a month. Now, what are we going to do? I have an employee who had this problem. She was homeless for an entire summer because of that, and had to use social services to help support her. And she needed time off from work. So it affected her as an employee, like her having to take off the time. So this is a multi-level community situation that it would be amazing if we could have the decisions in the hands of our city, and we could get our community on board to see that even if I was a homeowner, I want to have an investment on how people who rent, how they are living in our community as well. So I think it's important that these issues are being looked at, not just within our community, that our whole country is seeing this problem, and that we can have a trickle down to make decisions that are going to support people right here in Pacific Grove.
Thank you. The next question is on climate change. What are the main threats from climate change in your city, and how will you address them? You have up to 3 minutes to respond.
Our threats in climate change are, one is fires. We haven't had a major fire yet in our forest that we're connected to with on the entire peninsula, but we see fires happening all over the place, and fires are going to happen, we know, more frequently as we have changes in climate change. So us being in a location that is essentially an island can turn into an island. It's a real threat for us. If we had a fire, how would we get out? How would we get in? How would we get resources to us? The smoke. So I believe fire is a big concern for us with climate change. The other is sea level rising. We know our oceans are warming, and so what are we doing to mitigate our coastline and protect it, being at sea level? I would say, we're like kind of up on a hill, but we also are right at sea level. And so how are we going to keep that on our radar? And then the other thing is, I believe, is just as we have growth in our area, we have more tourists, we have more people moving to our area, and just more people create a bigger footprint. And so if we're going to have a hotel, if we're going to build a new hotel, then how are we going to mitigate more people coming into our area, that just by being human, we cause, again, a bigger carbon footprint? And so we have some juggling to do with wanting to bring more people into our area, having more housing. How will housing affect, how we build, how we choose to use resources for home building? How are they green? So there's a few things that we have to juggle with how we grow and where we choose to keep our green spaces to help mitigate climate change.
Thank you. The next question pertains to women and racial rights, or the significance of diversity, inclusion, and equity. Is there a gender and/or racial gap in your commissions, committees, and boards in your city, and how will you address this? You have up to 3 minutes to respond.
Okay, yes, there is a gap. There's a gap all over our country in all of those areas. We need more women in every level of government. We need more women, more people of color. We need more people living with disabilities. We need our LGBTQ plus community represented. I had the opportunity in this time in between from the last race until now to be on the Civil Rights Commission for Monterey County. I was chair there for part of the time. And that was the effort that we had there. We were working on how do we have, make sure that there's diversity in all of the county offices. And it went down to like people who were interviewing, people who looked at applications. So there are so many levels that we need to have representation because of the gap. We need to have the lenses that people see through that can make decisions, because they can be very one-sided. And so I would like to see, one of the things that I wanted to see with the county is that we were able to have diverse bodies on in our commissions and boards and such. So I would love to see that happen on a small level within a city, that we have a requirement that this diversity is a requirement on particular commissions and boards, and that diversity is also seen broadly, because a lot of times we look at it as women and people of color, but I think a lot of times, I know a lot of times that people living with disabilities are not always included in that. And if we look around, we know that 1 in 5, 1 in 4 people are living with a disability, yet we don't see them having a voice in our community. So it's essential and necessary and important that diversity is represented, because it's a way that we become better decision makers for our communities. I know myself, when I had an African American board member, she on the same committee, she was always bringing up questions that I hadn't thought of for her community. She has the lens and the lived experiences. We need the lived experiences of diverse community members to bring things to the table for our communities, or people are going to be left out. And we know that we know that all of our general plan and likely our charter have been formed through the lens of a viewpoint on our boards and commissions.
Thank you. We will now end with your closing statement. What would you like our listeners and viewers to take away about you and your candidacy? You have 1 minute.
I'm really excited about running currently. It is time, I believe, to add diversity to our dais in Pacific Grove. We need more. We need to open a door. My lived experience as being a Latina, raising children in Pacific Grove, again, having this opportunity where I've gotten to experience, again, the width and breadth of living in a community. And how has that affected me? My lived experience is important, and it represents many of our community members. And it's important to have that voice. I have hoped to achieve in the time I've been working, a bold leadership. I'm not afraid to face difficult questions. I'm not afraid to face difficult.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dionne. Thank you, Margie, for being here with us. I know it's a little off-putting with the timer, with making it sound of music, but thank you for working with us with it, and thank you again for being with us. Good luck in your candidacy, and we will see you out in the community.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.